Why did a simple walk home turn into the night that changed Marcus Reed's entire life? Marcus Reed, a calm black man of 27, loved his midnight drives more than anything because driving was the only time he felt free in a world that treated him like a threat. His $400,000 luxury car was not just a car, it was his shield, and his soft pride a gift from his father, Attorney General Daniel Reed, who had told him to work hard, walk tall, and never bow to hate. Marcus parked outside the small-town bakery after a long shift, feeling tired but peaceful. But peace never stayed long around people like him. Ethan Cole and Ryan Cole, the town's famous bullies, spotted the shiny car, and their faces twisted with jealousy and hate. They walked around it like wolves circling prey, whispering slurs, laughing loudly, hoping Marcus would hear them and break. Marcus stepped out of the shop holding a small vanilla cake for his mother, and when he saw the Cole brothers, he felt the familiar sting in his chest. Ethan shouted how a black man like you driving a car like this must be lying or stealing. Marcus stayed silent because his father taught him silence sometimes wins battles louder than words, but silence made the bullies angrier. Ryan kicked the tire and said we should teach him a lesson. Marcus felt fear, but also something deeper, a sadness that people still looked at his skin before his heart. He tried to walk away, he tried to breathe, he tried to stay calm, but the Cole brothers followed him, and their voices grew sharper, their insults colder, their steps heavier. Marcus said, "Please leave me alone." They only laughed. Ethan pulled out a lighter and said, "Let's see how fast rich boy runs when his pretty car burns." Marcus froze. He could not move. He could not speak. He watched in horror as Ethan flicked the lighter and Ryan poured gasoline they had stolen for their truck earlier. The moment the fire touched the car, the flames exploded upward like a beast waking up. The heat slapped Marcus's face and the sight broke him. His dream car turned into a burning nightmare, and all he could whisper was why. The bullies cheered like children at a festival. Officer Blake arrived, but instead of helping he smirked and said, "Maybe you should not show off this much, boy." Marcus felt his soul crack. The whole town watched the flames, and no one moved to help him. Marcus dropped to his knees holding the cake box, and for the first time in years, he felt truly small. If you are watching this, please subscribe, because voices like Marcus deserve to be heard, not ignored. Little did the bullies know the man they chose to destroy was the son of the Attorney General, and the fire they started would burn their entire world next. The flames still flickered in Marcus Reed's mind as he stood a few feet from the burning car. His 27-year-old frame tense but controlled, deep brown eyes scanning the small crowd that had gathered, some in shock, some in amusement, none stepping forward to help, and Marcus felt the familiar sting of isolation that came with being judged for the color of his skin rather than the strength of his character. Yet beneath the fear and anger, a quiet fire began to burn. A determination to show that nothing, not fire, not hate, could break him, and he knew that now silence alone would not protect him. Action was needed, justice was needed, and the bullies, Ethan and Ryan Cole, their faces pale now as the reality of what they had done sank in, noticed that Marcus's calm had changed into a quiet intensity that demanded attention. And before they could speak, Marcus lifted his voice, firm and unwavering, reminding them that every action had consequences and that disrespect and violence could never go unchecked. And the crowd held its breath because they sensed something was shifting, something more than fear or anger, something that could not be ignored. And as he spoke, the sound of approaching sirens grew louder, not from help, but from the authority that would soon intervene, and Marcus turned slowly toward the direction of the sirens, his jaw tight, his mind calculating, knowing that his father, Daniel Reed, the Attorney General, had trained him that justice sometimes came in ways people could not anticipate. And as the bullies tried to stammer excuses and laughs, Marcus's calm authority cut through them like steel, making it clear that they were no longer in control, that their fire could not intimidate him. And Officer Blake, who had smirked earlier, now stepped back uneasily as he saw Marcus's resolve. Realizing that he had misjudged the situation and that the man before him was not only strong, but connected to power he dared not challenge. And as the fire department arrived dousing the flames, Marcus stayed rooted, watching his once cherished car reduced to charred metal, but feeling a strange sense of relief that the destruction had revealed the truth, that cowardice and racism always reveal themselves eventually. And as his phone buzzed, he saw his father's name appear on the screen. Marcus feeling a rush of both pride and anticipation, because he knew his next steps would be guided by wisdom, by authority, and by the unbreakable bond between them. And Ethan and Ryan, realizing the gravity of their actions, paled further, their laughter gone, replaced by panic as they sensed consequences approaching. And the crowd began to murmur in awe, because they had just witnessed courage that refused to bow even when the world seemed against it. And Marcus, holding the empty cake box, finally whispered to himself that strength was not measured by wealth or possessions, but by the ability to stand tall when others tried to break you. And if you want to see Marcus Reed hold the bullies accountable, expose injustice, and teach the world the meaning of true courage, make sure you subscribe and comment justice to support him as he rises stronger than ever. Marcus Reed stepped away from the charred remains of his $400,000 car, the acrid smoke still stinging his nose. Yet every step he took was steady and filled with purpose, knowing that this destruction would not define him, but the courage he showed now would. And as he dialed his father Daniel Reed, the Attorney General, his fingers barely trembling, he felt the weight of both pride and anticipation pressing on his chest, because he knew the law would now move in his favor. And the bullies Ethan and Ryan Cole, their faces pale and sweaty, realized that the man they tried to humiliate was a force they could not intimidate. And as Marcus spoke to his father, his voice calm but resolute, outlining the events, the threats, and the blatant racism he had endured, he felt an inner satisfaction that for the first time in a long time justice might finally catch up. And as Daniel's stern yet reassuring voice guided him on the next steps, Marcus felt a quiet power flowing through him, the same power that came from knowing he was not alone. And he was supported by law, truth, and family, and the bullies, sensing the shift, began to fidget, their bravado crumbling as the crowd that had once watched in silence now whispered about the man standing taller than anyone had expected. And Officer Blake, who had smirked earlier, now looked unsure, realizing that his earlier prejudice could not withstand the authority and composure Marcus displayed. And as Marcus documented the incident, taking careful videos and photos, he noticed the neighbors, who had once avoided speaking, now peeking curiously and some even nodding in silent support. And Marcus knew that this moment, though painful, would become a lesson for the town about courage, consequences, and accountability. And as the bullies were eventually confronted by law enforcement called personally by his father, Ethan and Ryan's panic grew, realizing that their attempt to assert superiority had backfired in the most public way possible. And Marcus, watching them being held responsible, felt a sense of quiet satisfaction because power had been measured correctly and strength had been recognized where it mattered most. And as he walked home, cake box in hand, soot still on his shoes, he whispered that life's true value was not in wealth or cars, but in standing up to hatred and injustice no matter the cost. And if you want to see Marcus Reed continue to expose prejudice, hold the powerful accountable, and inspire courage in a world that often looks the other way, make sure you subscribe and comment strength to honor his journey and witness justice unfold. Marcus Reed walked through his neighborhood with the evening sun casting long shadows behind him, feeling the weight of the day lift slightly with every step, yet knowing the real lesson was only just beginning. The town that had watched his car burn in silence now watched him differently, whispers of admiration mingling with surprise, because they saw a man who refused to bow to hate. Ethan and Ryan Cole, pale and defeated, were escorted by authorities as the gravity of their actions hit them like a storm, their previous arrogance shattered into fear and regret, while Marcus's calm demeanor remained unbroken, his voice steady as he reminded the town that respect and justice were not negotiable, that courage could not be bought or stolen, and that prejudice always reveals itself eventually. Officer Blake, who had once smirked at Marcus, now approached quietly, his tone hesitant, acknowledging that he had misjudged a man who carried not just wealth, but integrity, wisdom, and the courage to act when others faltered. Marcus looked down at the empty space where his car had stood, soot marking the pavement, yet he felt no anger, only clarity that material things could be replaced, but honor, dignity, and moral strength could not. Neighbors who had turned away before now offered small nods, children stared wide-eyed, learning silently that standing up against injustice is a lesson stronger than any lecture. And as Marcus approached his home, the cake box in his hands felt symbolic, a small reminder that kindness and humility endure even amidst chaos and hatred. That night, as Marcus sat with his father Daniel Reed, discussing the legal and personal consequences for the bullies, he realized the greatest victory was not in seeing them punished, but in showing his community that bravery could change hearts, shift minds, and rewrite narratives that had long gone unchallenged. The story of his burned car, the flames, the laughter of bullies, and the quiet triumph of law and courage would ripple far beyond that small town, teaching everyone that hatred may ignite, but truth and justice always burn brighter. Marcus whispered to himself that life's true power lies in patience, courage, and standing up when no one else will, that every challenge carries a lesson, and every act of injustice can become an opportunity for change. And if you want to witness how Marcus Reed continues to challenge prejudice, inspire courage, and show that dignity outweighs hatred, make sure you subscribe and comment courage to stand with him, honor his journey, and remind the world that justice, patience, and integrity always prevail. True courage is not measured by wealth, possessions, or physical power, but by the unwavering commitment to stand against hate, protect what is right, and inspire others through actions, not words.